Hello my friends and welcome to another design team project for All and Create, and you will find links to what I used in the description box below. So let's dive into these art journal pages, and I warn you now, I went all in for the Christmas feelings in this project. The first thing I did was to stamp this stamp set called Robin and Nuthatch number 690 by Tracy Evans, and I especially love the fuzzy nuthatch and the fact that you get both a small and a bigger one in this set. Then I move on to a set called Hot Drinks number 643 by Vipasha BK, and I stamp all my images in VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Next we have a stamp set called Cupcakes number 646, Lil Elf number 741 and Jolly Elements number 560, and of course my fuel is coffee. I want one of my birds to face the other way, so I ink it up and stamp on one of my small jelly plates. Then I place my paper over the jelly plate and pull a print of this reversed bird. It's not a perfect impression, but I will enhance the outline with a black fine liner later. And I pull a few prints so I can choose the best one. To color all my images, I'm using my SIG Clean Color Real Brush markers. For this cup of hot coffee, tea or chocolate, I'm using 3 shades of red and a brown for my darkest shade. These images has lots of black shadows built in, so it's really easy to place my dark shadows and leave a highlight in the middle and go over that area with my lightest red at the end. I'm using 3 shades of brown for the coffee beans scattered around the cup, and for the leaves I'm using 3 shades of green. This metal jug has so much of those black shadows, so I bring in 4 shades of grey and color in the small white areas. Throughout my coloring, I stick to the same 4 red shades and sometimes bring in a brown marker as well, like on this cute Santa hat and the cupcake wrappers. I stamped and colored many cupcakes, but for a few exceptions I color the wrappers red, the cake yellowish brown, and I use all 4 green shades for the frosting. I color the cherry on top red, and for the holly leaves and berries I use the same red and green combos as before. I called the fuzzy bird a nuthatch, but now I am wondering if this next bird is a nuthatch and the fuzzy one is a robin. If you know your English bird, I would love to know in the comments. So for this bird I'm using 3 shades of orange for his tummy and bluish grey markers for his feathers, and I use a colorless blender to fade the 2 colors out before they meet and become brown. For this bird, and let's call him a robin, I use 3 shades of red for his tummy, the bluish grey markers for his feathers, and that colorless blender to help the colors fade like before. So let's make a background, and this time I'm dividing the pages horizontally in 3 parts, masking off everything but the middle part in my 8x8 Dilutions journal, and bring out a stencil called Cracked Walls 1 number 37. I also bring out white opaque distress grit paste. I push the paste through my brick stencil and move it along to cover the whole stretch in the middle. To me, brick patterns don't have to be perfect, so I don't wait for it to dry before I continue. I just accept the imperfections, as always. For the top third of my pages, I bring out Distress Spray Stain in Twisted Citron, Distress Oxide Spray in Rustic Wilderness, and Mica Spray Stain in Wicked Elixir, and then I mask off everything below. I always spray with water first, and then the ink sprays from the lightest Twisted Citron to the shimmering Wicked Elixir, and finally Rustic Wilderness. Next, I have masked off everything except the now dry bricks, and I bring out Dilutions ink spray in Balmy Nights, Mica Spray Stain in Decay, and Distress Oxide Spray in Weathered Wood. And I do the same procedure as before, going from the lightest to the darkest. For the lower part of my pages, I go for yet another texture. This time I have a bunch of faux wood strips made with an embossing folder called Lumber and ink, and I glue those strips tight against the bricks, aiming for the wood to be a part of a table, and the rest the wall behind the table. While the glue dry, I bring out the flowers I stamped and colored along with Distress Collage Medium and Distress Rock Candy Glitter. I use a sponge to dab on the collage medium on about half of every flower and pour that glitter onto the collage medium, giving me frosty flowers, leaves and berries. I already love this background, but that doesn't mean I can leave it alone. So I bring out a stamp called Wine number 625 by Tracy Evans and VersaFine Rainforest Green ink. Since I'm not going for a perfect impression, more like a worn old wallpaper, I hold the stamp in my hand, ink up and stamp. Then I cover the stamped wine pattern with Wow's Clear Matte Dull embossing powder and continue stamping and covering with powder until I'm happy. And then I melt all the powder in one go. I chose the matte dull powder because I didn't want a shiny result this time, but that's just my preference. So let's get on with my sentiment, and I choose one from a stamp set called Miss Mary number 608 by Janet Klein, and I will use Wow's silver embossing powder to heat emboss the sentiment, saying, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." I stamp in Versamark sticky embossing ink, cover with Wow's silver embossing powder and melt the powder with my heat tool. Next, I bring out 2 distress inks in Festive Berries and Aged Mahogany, and I blend the lighter red in the middle and the darker coming in from the sides. And before I cut it down to a square, I buff off any ink left on my silver embossed letters. Now let's start putting this together, and I start with my frosty flowers and glue them at the bottom of both pages. Next, I glue the frosty holly leaves and berries in both upper corners and in the center. I stamped and colored a bunch of presents from the Lil Elf stamp set, and now I use them to decorate the cupcake wrappers. I glue down the red cup, the metal jug, and then I start building a tower of Christmas cupcakes. You saw me stamp the Lil Elf, but somehow I didn't get a lot of coloring on video this time. I'm sorry, but he's colored with the same red and greens as before, and I place him peeking out behind the cupcakes. Next, I glue down the robin, the reversed robin, the nuthatch, and I glue down 5 mini robin birds in the flowers on top of a bigger bird and sitting on the cupcakes. I made a frame around my sentiment with scrap pieces of those wood strips, and I glue it on the cafe wall. Yes, in my mind, this is a cafe scene, and I glue down a Christmas hat on the corner. I also glue a Christmas hat onto my robin. Isn't he just too cute? I stamped, colored and cut out a bunch of extra coffee beans, and I glue them down on the cafe table along with hot air coming from my red cup. As always, my last detail is to use glossy accents on the coffee beans, the presents on the wrappers and the eyes of the Lil Elf. And now, this all and create mixed media cafe scene spread is finished. Thank you so much for watching. I haven't been well lately, so that's why this video took me some time, but I hope to be back with more artsy crafting soon. Until the next time, happy Christmas crafting.